The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now
No,
in session.
wait, bailiff. We don't have a trial, man. I talked to you about this earlier.
Oh.
Yeah,
We'll
you're just going to do the interview. It was very last minute, very thrown together. We didn't have time to watch a movie.
It's in his contract. He has to show up in every episode, so.
I never should have signed that contract. But hello, welcome everybody to a special bonus episode of Reels of Justice. We're here with Kirk Thatcher, who just directed the Muppets Haunted Mansion special on Disney Plus, streaming right now. And Kirk's been nice enough to just agree to chat with us and talk to us, about the whole experience and how it's been. So, hello, Kirk.
There's the check for $30,000, right?
Yes. Don't cast that till next week, though.
It's 30,000 pesos, though.
It's in the mail, you said.
Yeah, $30,000 hairs.
Totally, yeah, it's in the mail.
You did not say dollars. You did not say dollars.
Definitely a post-dated check there.
It's not pesos. It's not Disney dollars. It's dollars. Yeah.
It is Disney dollars, actually.
Thank you, John Lovitz.
Yeah, that's the ticket.
The ticket? Yeah.
So welcome, Kirk.
Thank you.
Obviously, it's been out for about a week now.
Yeah.
And the response has been enormous to Muppets Haunted Mansion streaming on Disney Plus right now.
Great.
And so what was the impetus, the inspiration for this?
Well, I've been trying to do a Muppet Halloween appropriate movie with ghosts or monsters or something for about 27 years. And when Disney took over the Muppets, I had said to the various divisions that have managed them, which has been many, I think five different what you call them, departments have managed the Muppets in the last 16, 17 years. And so we almost did one about 8-10 years ago, and then it fell through. I think it was even announced, and then it didn't happen, but it hadn't generated a script yet. And then when the new management at Imagineering took over, I did my pitch again. I said, I really think we should do something, a Halloween special, second biggest holiday in America. The Muppets already have monsters, and we have ghosts, and let's do something, in that genre. And they said, thank you for your input. We're not doing that right now. We're going to do
I don't understand why not. It seems like the Muppets and Halloween go together well.
That is my greatest, sort of joy in seeing the reaction. Is kind of like it's the "I told you so" for the last 27 years to all the different people. It's like, I told you. But anyway,
hearing that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I haven't said it. I haven't said it because the fans have. But anyway, so the Muppets are now managed by Imagineering. So after working on Muppets Now, about a year after, so late summer of 2019. They said, hey, that monster Halloween thing you want to do? I said, yeah. They said, what do you think about the Muppets doing something with a Haunted Mansion? I said, that is a dream come true. That's amazing. I'm a huge Mansion fan. I can pretty much recite it and probably, walk you through it without ever needing a visual aid and describe it to you. And so that's how it started. And so we started writing an outline in probably December of 2019. That's bled into January of 2020, and we were getting ready to get a script greenlit to write and then shoot probably in March or April of 2020, and COVID hit. So everything shut down. Nothing happened for about 11 months. We had an approved idea, like an outline, but it was for a 90-minute version, and it had 5 songs instead of the 3, and it just had more story. And so in November of 2020, they said, we're gearing back up to do this. And so we broke the outline into actual, story beats, kind of each segment, each scene. and then started writing. And by early January, we had a first draft, and that got greenlit, and we shot it in April. So very fast turnaround. I think we got greenlit January 15th, and we started shooting April 5th. So
Now, was any of it actually shot in the Haunted Mansion? Because I had a theory about this.
No, we can't.
Okay.
You can't. The Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, every ride is not conducive to filming. Maybe the Tiki Room because it's just a big empty space. But yeah, the Haunted Mansion, I've walked through parts of it. You can't film in there. You'd have to bring all these lights and all these monitors. And it's not that big. It looks big because it's very well designed to sort of convince you what it is. But essentially, it's just, there's a reason I said the Doom buggy wraps around you. It's not 360 view. It's like maybe a 120 degree angle of view, so you don't see the stuff that you're not supposed to see. So yeah, none of it was shot. Not even at one point we talked about shooting on the porch, or at least the entry room, and and also the park was shut down. So
yeah.
Well, I gotta say that's one of the best things about the specials, that it actually feels like it's shot in the Haunted Mansion at all times.
It feels like you're going through it.
Yeah. Like when you're in the stretching room, it literally feels like you're in the stretching room.
Well, we had an amazing production designer, and she and I are both like, we'd have who's a bigger Mansion fan contest.
Yeah.
And
is the winner Scott White's?
No, but he's up there. No, her name's Darcy Prevost. And she was my production designer on Christine McConnell, The Curious Creations of Christine McConnell on Netflix. Yes. And so she and I love both spooky stuff. She's actually a magician. She's a member of the Magic Castle. And so she loves spooky as much as I do, and jumped at the chance to do the Mansion because, again, we just both love it. So she went really deep. And again, working with Imagineering, they have this Bible of all they have the blueprints and the every sample of everything and lots of pictures and all the background stories, stuff you don't even know when you ride the ride. You don't know characters' names, but they have names for them and why they're there. And so she jumped on it, and we had to build the whole thing digitally. That whole exterior, interior, the graveyard is all an Unreal Engine. You could make a video game where you walk through the Muppets Haunted Mansion. That's how.
Well done, sir.
I would play the hell out of that video game.
I know. I told them you should make it a VR. Make a VR attraction. Charge people $5 to coast through the.
And do it like the ride, except with like the stuff that you did. Yeah, that would be great.
But you could also stop and look around. Unlike the ride, we built everything so you could shoot it from every angle. So yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. See, yeah, because it's been a while since I've been through the Haunted Mansion, and when I did go, my eyes were closed most of the time, and I was crying.
Oh, really?
I was 26 years old.
I was going to make the same
to be fair.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair.
But but that it is really like that. It's almost like beat for beat, like you're going through the ride.
And that was intentional in the script. Mm-hmm. Again, being such a Mansion fan and being a writer, the big difference for me was that I got to write and direct, because normally they just had me directing, which was weird because my start with the Muppets was as a designer and like an idea gag guy, and then I went into writing and designing on dinosaurs, and then I wrote pretty much all through the 90s, and then I started directing like 1999 and the 2000s, and then once I started directing, like they wouldn't let me write, or wouldn't let me whatever, I wasn't writing on it. And so I think one of the reasons, and a lot of the accolades have been like, oh, it really feels like the classic Muppets. And I said, because I wrote with Jerry Jewell and I wrote classic Muppets. I was trained by the guy who helped create them, and the guy who did create them, Jim Henson, and Jerry Jewell, who was his first hire and the head writer for the Muppet Show. Like that's what I do. And it's, it was a revelation to them.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was great because it has that feel, which to me is just pure joy, is writing for those goofballs and mashing it up with the Haunted Mansion. Like it's one of the things I was born to do.
Yeah. What my favorite thing is that you're following Gonzo around too, and Gonzo is my favorite character.
Mine
so like
too,
it would be completely different if it was following Kermit around.
Right. Well, and somebody asked that in another interview, like, how did you think of other characters? I said, yeah, I mean, Kermit and Fozzie could have been like a, Abbott and Costello, with Fozzie always being like, oh my God. And we did that in one of the earlier iterations. Yeah, exactly. In this one that became the video game, Muppet Monster Madness or something, that was the first Halloween themed thing I wrote in like 1995 with Jim Lewis, and Fozzie and Kermit are walking through the hallways, and we did like Abbott and Costello shtick, and Fozzie gets bitten by a werewolf and becomes a werebear. and so he's just
A
nervous.
bear wolf.
A bear wolf, yeah, or a werebear or a bear wolf, and so it just wouldn't have had the thing that really lent itself. Just the idea kind of flowed fairly naturally. Is Gonzo's this daredevil, and so he has been invited. We don't know by whom to this scariest haunted house in the world, and so that's the challenge. So Pepe goes along, because he thinks it's a Hollywood mansion party.
Because Pepe's definitely got to be your second favorite.
Yes.
Was Rizzo ever in consideration for that role?
Sadly, no, because the puppeteer doesn't. Steve Whitmire is not working with Disney anymore, so they haven't recast him. At some point, I mean, when puppeteers retire, like Frank Oz, or when they pass away, like Jim and Jerry and some of the others, they recast him. But it was so fresh. I mean, Steve just stopped doing it like 3 years ago, or maybe 4 now. Time after COVID, everything seems weirdly shorter.
I think it's
and longer.
4. Yeah, I think it is 4.
4 years ago. So so it might get recast, but that's not my I don't. That's not my purview.
Yeah, but good call. I mean, that's what I was thinking too, Ryan. I was just like, man, Rizzo would be great.
I don't know. I'm a Pepe guy. Rizzo's okay.
I
like Pepe.
Pepe really won me over with this.
I have a soft spot for Rizzo.
Yeah, Pepe really won me over for this, but considering
well, Pepe and Rizzo are both selfish, but Rizzo's selfish in like food and survival, where Pepe's selfish like ladies and fame.
Yeah,
like he's greedy, where Rizzo isn't necessarily greedy. Pepe's greedy and kind of a narcissist, and he wants the ladies and the glamorous life. Rizzo didn't care about glamour; he just wanted food and not die.
And jelly beans.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Although there is a rat in the in the show.
3 of them.
The,
At least
the,
3.
the rat and the wife beater from Muppets from Space.
Yeah, Bubba. There's actually 4 rats. There's a very quick cut in the middle of the song in the ballroom when it says "cash in your chips." We're not joking. Rizzo, I think it's Rizzo, throws these 2 poker chips right at Lens, but it's literally like a 2-second cut. So if you blink, you miss it.
There is a Rizzo appearance. Blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah,
I have to go back and watch it a third time.
He's like the bailiff of our Reels of Justice.
No, people like Rizzo.
That's
Forward to seeing Rizzo. Now, besides the Haunted Mansion ride, what would you say are other inspirations that you drew from?
Well, for just the tone of it, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, obviously, with kind of 2 guys going through a scary. I mean, all those kind of campy comedies from the 40s of the Deadhead Kids and a haunted house. I mean, all those just had that. But
Bowery Boys meet the Brooklyn Gorilla.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say that most of it was derived from the Haunted Mansion. It just has such an iconic series of rooms and sounds and music, and then the Muppets sort of. How do we wind the Muppets through that and do we're calling mashups, but it kind of was almost easier than it should have been, and that they really both lent themselves to. Kind of melding them together, and there really wasn't a lot of friction. And even the Imagineering people, there's 2 people at Imagineering that like their life's work is the mansion, and they keep it, and they are the keepers of the knowledge, and they were super happy. They're like, nobody has ever cracked the Haunted Mansion in a movie or a special like this. They said usually their term was
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, well,
don't talk about it, Ben. Don't.
Well, what they said was the grim and the grinning, they weren't throwing shade at Eddie Murphy or his movie, but they were just saying that usually it's either too scary or it's too kidsy, and they said yours really catches that balance. And the story was the story of the mansion. One great thing about Disney rides, particularly the mansion, and Pirates of the Caribbean, those 2 would kind of Walt's biggest influence, I think, besides the Tiki Room. But the Tiki Room is more of a show. Is that there's a story. It's subtle. They don't tell you the story like, in this house, this woman died and she killed her husbands. But that is subtly in there. So we took that, again, being a huge mansion fan, I knew that about Constance and said, okay, well, that's Pepe's story. What's Gonzo's story? And then we're kind of like, well, what? The mansion has 999 ghosts. Isn't that line? There's always room for one more. So I said, well, let's say the mansion wants more souls, but it's happy haunts, it's not torturing them. It just likes it. It's a house that's lonely, and the ghosts there are lonely. So we kind of took those as our North Stars of like, so what is it that, why would you stay? In other words, if you stay in the mansion, it's trying to scare you. What scares you? Well, everyone's scared by their own fears. And we're not certainly the first movie to use that as the plot point, is like, what are your fears? And so what are Gonzo's fears? That was very specific. So that's kind of was our framework, was like, well, we even do that little poem, within these halls, you'll find your fears and your frights, and, try and stay the night. And if you can't, you'll stay here forever. Mwahahaha. And so that became, and then the rest was kind of like, well, let's go through the mansion like you go through the ride. You start in this room, you go to the stretch room, you go down the hallway. You then, in the ride, you get on a doom buggy, but we just have them keep walking, and they experience. And we got to add stuff like the carnivorous plant was something I designed and said, I got to design something. And some people said, goat. And the screaming goat, I didn't design her. We used her. She came out of a thing I did with Muppets Now with the Pepe game show, and it was a one-note gag, and I loved it so much we used her again. And then I'm like, oh, we got to have the screaming goat. And it according to Twitter, she's the breakout character. Like, everybody loves the goat.
Well, yeah, no, she has got the 3 beat jokes, right? I mean, she's at the end.
Yep, she's the button. And the thing is, to me, like, somebody asked me in another interview, why do you think that is? And I said, because she's chaos. The Muppets are sort of controlled chaos that you're never really going to get hurt, but just jumping up and screaming is, it's very Haunted Mansion-y, because they have those specters in the graveyard in the attic that just pop up behind a tombstone or something and go, ah! And so I said, well, we have the screaming goat, let's just use her. And it's sort of a complete non sequitur, but it works, because people know about screaming goats. And she doesn't even have a name. We just call her Screaming Goat.
That works, I think.
Yeah.
That's the name.
Well, it's funny. Some of the Muppet monsters, you have to be a diehard fan, these are deep cuts, but their names are like the gag or the sketch they were in. Like, there's the Muppet who's dancing in the ballroom, who says something about, you like things that are old and decrepit. That's his name is Beautiful Day, because he was built for a sketch either around a song or a poem called Beautiful Day. And there's another one called Diner Monster, because it appeared in a diner sketch.
DM to his friends.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Screaming Goat, just SG, I guess.
I'm glad you brought up the dance hall sequence, because that's actually my favorite moment, simply because it recalls the actual Muppet Show.
I thank you. I wanted it to be bigger when originally, because again, I'm the Mansion fan, so I got excited going, oh my god, the ballroom dancers, we should do it at the dance thing there, and it'll introduce the room, but in a funny way that's very evocative of the Muppet Show, but they'll ghosts. And so the problem is that Muppets, you really can't show them from like their rib cage down. So we kind of made them, specters that just kind of their tails were from their waist down was sort of just diaphanous vapors, but which would be a good name for a punk band. They and I wanted to have like seven Muppet, but the problem is we were running out of puppets. Because we had so many roles cast, and we didn't want to give away like Uncle Deadly and Johnny and Sal and some of the ones that were in the bride's attic. So we're kind of like, we really have, unless we just go to super generics, like just a whatnot. So we ran out, but we had Beverly Plume with Howard, which was great. The turkey, her name's Beverly Plume, and just like, I'm having some girlfriends over for Thanksgiving. It's just like awkward. So that was all really fun. And then the skulls that come out of the organ, we used Muppet skulls, and they're all going, oh, as they float up. And the 2 duelists were Sam and Pops. It just, all these kind of cameos, Muppet cameos, just kind of seemed obvious to me, at least, knowing our huge catalog of puppets.
But the skeleton that can't dun dun dun, the mummy, they were original and new.
No, they were built for, again, I knew them because those are characters I wrote in Muppet Treasure Island. That was Old Tom and Dead Tom. There was, actually it was Old Tom, Really Old Tom, and Dead Tom. So it's Really Old Tom and Dead Tom. And so we turned Really Old Tom, the mummy, into a kind of a female, gave her some wispy hair coming out of her wrappings and kind of cat's eye glasses. And then we made Dead Tom actually animate, because normally he just was a floppy skeleton. And then that was my little Monty Python homage. It's sort of like just 2 idiots who don't get it, and they did the 2 puppeteers, Alice Deneen and Bruce Lanoil, were so fun because they just kind of came up, and also Will Arnett, because he's always doing it with them. He would just do these great ad libs, and they kind of got this rhythm going. And we probably cut 3 minutes of shtick out because they would just, every time we do a take, they do a different version. I mean, they'd always go dun 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 dun, and then Will would be like, okay, we've practiced this. You could probably do a great outtake reel of just Will Arnett because he was so fun and so good at ad libbing. But yeah,
at least the Arnett cut.
Yes. Exactly.
was this Ed Asner's last performance?
It's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did a voice in something else that hasn't been released, but I think it's his last on camera, and he did have a line which they cut, which I thought was, again, I did not do it. He had a line where the glass broke, so Chrissy Metz, the opera singer, hits that note and his glass shatters, and he looked at it and just said, well, I've been trying to cut down anyway. And that was the gag. And Disney's very sensitive about, well, we don't want to make fun of people drinking. So, and I felt bad because I'm like, he actually had a line. He didn't just come there and hold a glass up, but whatever. I'm only the director, which is, I'm not being snarky. It's actually true now. Like, there's 5 people above me that make decisions that I don't have veto power over. So,
see, everyone's so right. Those people, the producers, and ask them to release the Asner cut.
Yes, exactly. It is
restore
exactly
restore the Asner verse.
Restore the Asner verse. We can make it happen.
We'll get that trending in no time.
The cinematic Asner verse. Anyway, he was great. He was only on set for maybe an hour and a half, but I had a great conversation with him about just because you're setting up and killing time, and he's sitting there in a wheelchair. He's got a guy with him, his friend, who was wheeling him around, and he's just, at least to try and have some rapport with your actor before you go, hey, try that, try it again. So I just said, hey, are you okay to chat for a minute? He's like, sure. He is Ed Asner, so it's not like he's like, oh yeah, let's chat. He's like, sure. So I said, I have to ask you, what was it like working with Ted Knight? Because he just, to me, just seemed like, he goes, he's the funniest person I ever met. It just could not be funny. He was hilarious. I said, really? He said, yes, until I met Will Ferrell. I said, really? I guess I didn't look it up, but I know he did something with Will Ferrell. And he said, I don't know what
movie. It was an Elf.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was Santa Claus in Elf.
That was it, Elf. So he said Will Ferrell, he said was the funniest human being. He said Ted Knight and then Will Ferrell, the 2 funniest human beings he'd ever worked with, and just they could not be funny. And thank you. I was like, I knew he did something with him. And then we just talked about working on Mary Tyler Moore, and I said doing Up because I know some of the Pixar guys like Pete Docter and actually the guys that directed Up are friends of mine, and just talked a little bit about that. But it was just amazing. Somewhere there's a picture, I think the still guy, but we're all wearing masks, so all the stills from behind the scenes, I've got this big cloth thing over my face, and it could be anybody. But
I don't think you could wear a face mask and people wouldn't recognize you.
No, seriously,
you'd be in the captain's hat.
You can't hide those eyes.
No, it's weird. It's weird. I look like Nureyev. Yeah, and I put that mask on. People are like, are you Rudolph Nureyev? I'm like, no, I have his legs.
Get that all the time.
I do. Yeah, with a mask on. I take it off and then they scream. Yeah.
Oh. Punk on the bus.
That's me.
So yeah, hopefully we'll be getting some more stuff from the Muppets, some more specials. Hopefully this inspires the powers that be to see that there's still a demand for it. And
I think, I mean, the fans are saying exactly that. Not that you're not a fan, but the diehard fans.
Yeah. The real fans.
The real fans. Well, it's sort of like Star Wars has enough real fans that they kind of have the clout, but the Muppets, I've always said, I think worldwide there's maybe 1 million to 1.5 million diehard Muppet fans worldwide. And most of them are probably in the United States, England, and maybe Australia and Canada. Outside of that, everybody, I said they're like the Smurfs. Like people, oh yeah, they're fine. I love the Smurfs. But you don't go like, oh my God, there's another Smurf movie coming out. It sort of just seems like, oh, they were great when I was a kid or whatever. And I'm hoping that this, in fact, my pitch for doing a Halloween movie forever was Halloween is the second largest holiday in America. We have 7 or 8 Christmas specials. We don't need another Christmas special. Like people are like, they're actually like, which of the 7 is your favorite Muppet Christmas special between Muppet, what is it? Blah, 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 blah.
Well, it's Christmas Carol, a
Christmas
very
Merry Muppet movie.
A very
There's
Merry
the
Muppet movie.
there's the John Denver Muppets Letters of Santa, the John Denver Christmas Special, a Muppet Family Christmas. I mean, it just goes boom, boom, boom. And so I said, let's do a Halloween thing, and it just everyone kind of looked at you like two heads. So finally we do this, and it's exploding, and I'm like, well, kind of duh. I mean, if I had someone said, you know what, Kirk, you get to pick the next 3 Muppet projects, I would make a Halloween feature film, or like something with ghosts and creatures and something, because the Muppets can do it and they're not scary. If you did it with, I mean, Dark Crystal and Labyrinth were weird and kind of scary, where the Muppet, if you kind of Muppetize it, it's more approachable, and it still can be really funny. And again, that's what I hope this seems to be. People got that. Like, this is funny and a little scary, but everyone said the goat, and there's a jump scare with Stamos, but
but he's a Muppet, and I loved that. I love that the
you.
monster he becomes is so obviously Muppety.
Yeah.
That's great. But there's a ton of rides left in the park too to convert.
Well, and that's the joke. I mean, we kind of did Pirates of the Caribbean, which was Treasure Island.
Yeah.
And they just made a Jungle Cruise movie, but I mean, you could do a Jungle Cruise Muppet version without people, with all the animals in the jungle. And the fact, I mean, the other thing that they really did was the Jungle Cruise movie is an Amazon cruise movie.
Yeah.
They just kind of, so we could do the Congo, and have gorillas and all that stuff. So
I could do the African Queen, but with Muppets.
Exactly. It's funny you say that, because who was I talking to recently? And I say, just Kermit and Piggy. That's it. Just do it cheap. Do it in a water tank, and with so like I said,
don't change a single line from the original
script. Mr. Allnut.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to help you, man. I mean, it would be funny.
And you do both voices.
There you go. Whether it would be good or not, I'll do it as a live reading and then see if we get enough.
Perfect. But I mean, Disney has been, and we love Disney. They've been cranking out all the live action remakes.
Yes.
Crank out a live action remake, but with the Muppets. The Muppets Beauty and the Beast.
What? The
Muppets Seven Dwarves.
You are pitching to the you're preaching to the choir, as they say. I think they lend themselves to kind of soft parody, I call it, where you're not, or a genre parody. Like I wanted to do a Muppet spy movie, a Muppet Western, a Muppet sci-fi. I wrote a Muppet sci-fi movie. They were going to make it in the 90s, and then Sony bought the rights to distribute Muppet films, and they went for Muppets in Space, which has nothing to do with space, except they gave away the ending. So
spoiler alert, everyone.
Yeah, spoiler alert, they gave away the ending. Well, because originally the script was called Star Gonzos, and when Jerry Jewell wrote it, and I said, well, that's giving away the ending. And then it was just, they were going to call it Muppets in Space, and that was the title of my movie. And I said, well, you can't call it that because they don't go into space. It's a lie. So they changed it to Muppets from Space. I said, well, you just gave away the ending of the movie. But anyway, like anybody care. Like you go to a Muppet movie, like it's not The Sixth Sense. You're like, what?
They were Muppets the entire time.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, now I want to see a Muppet Sixth Sense, and and Haley Joel Osment. It's still Haley Joel Osment, though.
Yes, as an adult.
But he's the only one who's
as
human.
Bruce Willis.
Did you ever see? Would you ever watch 30 Rock, where Kenneth saw people as Muppets? So that was my pitch. If you do that, it's like, a Sixth Sense, but instead of seeing dead people, he just sees people as Muppets. Like certain people, just, if I walk in the room, he sees Sweetums, like, hey, how's it going? But it's not really scary. It's just like, okay, he's insane.
I love Sweetums.
Yeah.
At the end, like all these real people like take off their heads and they're Muppets underneath. So he was right
exactly.
the whole time.
Exactly. Oh, there you go. That's the freaky thing.
Ooh.
Do you like
Twilight Zone.
The Invaders, but or the Twilight Zone, Eye of the Beholder, where everyone's changing into a Muppet.
Yes.
Well, anyway, yes, they lend themselves to a movie. Well, again, like Treasure Island. I mean, James Bond. You could do a great Muppet James Bond movie.
Yeah.
In fact, after Austin Powers came out, I went to the head of Muppet features development at that time and said, that is what we should do. I mean, that he kind of made what I wanted to do. In fact, Jim Lewis and I wrote a James Bond sketch, And I still love this joke. Piggy was, her name was Honey Bacon. So it's honey baked ham, but it's pronounced. And somebody goes, Miss Honey Baked Ham. It's like, it's pronounced Bacon. Which to me is just like that right there should be, that proves you could do that movie. And Kermit is, you know, James Frog or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're really good as, if you ever, or if you guys are big enough movie fans, you ever see any of the Carry On films out of England?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Carry On Screaming and
Carry On Screaming. Yeah. There's like 12 of them. There's
there's a ton.
Carry On Sergeant, Carry On Doctor, Carry On Screaming. Carry On Screaming probably got the most play because it's a horror movie parody, and Kenneth Williams is so ridiculous. But the Carry On films to me are what the Muppets, and maybe that's why they're so well beloved in England. They kind of get that, like, oh, they're a troupe of players that you can put in any genre, a war picture, a cowboy picture, a space movie, and the winning part, this is what you get with the Muppets, which is sort of a double-edged sword. You can't just have Kermit be a bloodthirsty killer, because like, what the hell, you know, that would sell the franchise down or sell the character down the river. But what you can do is have these beloved characters, so you know the audience loves them. In fact, my broken record for years with the Muppets was we don't have to write a schmaltzy story. Everyone loves them already. You don't have to have about, oh, we all help each other and friendship is golden and magic. Then it becomes like a kid's special. It's a Care Bears movie. They're already beloved, so we don't need to double down on sweetness. We need to double down on comedy and silliness and sort of camaraderie and an appreciation of nonsense. You know, because I think particularly when the world gets like it is now, in fact, I was thinking about, you know, how insane our world is right now, and thinking back when Monty Python popped, and that was right during at the end of the Vietnam War, and our country was torn apart between, you know, the peace, love, and hippie generation, and no to war, and the old school kind of World War II, you know, greatest generation who had very different ideas of how the country should be run. And we're in a very similar time. And I think that absurdist humor, that just kind of joy of silliness is a great escape. And I think, you know, this is my pitch to anyone at Disney who will listen, is like this, you know, and they've got Star Wars and the Marvel movies, which are serious and gritty and have, you know, stakes and people and planets getting blown up. I said, let's do everyone. That's our life right now. I don't have to watch a movie to know what it's like to have people killed or dying or all that. We've got plagues. We don't need a Thanos in the glove. We've got people dying every day that, you know, randomly, except, you know, some virus hits them. So let's do something that makes you laugh and kind of forget the cruel insanity of our world at the moment. Again, just the reason I love Monty Python. I grew up watching Vietnam War videos and on the news every night. And it's just, and, you know, with the threat of, nuclear war hanging over our heads. And so something that was just like, I'm going to attack you with a banana, just seemed like, yes, thank you. Like, not everything has to be like, okay, so where are you going to hide when your brain when your eyes melt out of your head? Like, bananas are funny. You know, it's just.
Now I want to see a Muppet version of the parrot sketch.
There you go. Except the parrot talks.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not dead. Well, then it's like, yeah, exactly.
I think I'll go for a walk.
Yeah, I think
you're not fooling anyone.
Oh, I would love to have. I mean, John Cleese, you know, was a big fan of the Muppets and friends with Frank Oz and Steve Martin, like all those guys. I would love
the best episode of the Muppet Show.
Yeah, I would not disagree with you. Although I'm also a fan of the more sketches. Like Elton John had some great sketches. Like maybe the guests weren't as great, but there's some. So
Star
many
Wars one's pretty good too.
Well,
speaking
of Star Wars, this is a little deep cut. We made 2. So we did a bunch of Pigs in Space. I think we did. Well, originally we did 5, about 7-8 years ago, that were released on YouTube. But we did 2 that were Star Wars themed, and Lucasfilm killed them. Said you can't release these. And so when did Force Awakens come out?
2015.
Yeah. So 6 6 years ago. So 7 years ago we did these, and the idea was we were going to kind of piggyback on Force Awakens, but it was all basically taking the characters that they played in that Star Wars episode. So Kermit was Luke Flyswatter, and Piggy was Princess Leia, or whatever she was called, and Gonzo was Dark Nader, and then we had Pepe as Prawn Solo. and Fozzie was Chewbacca Waka, and Bunsen and Beaker were R2 and 3PO, and we had Mark Hamill was going to cameo in one of them, and the other one J.J. Abrams was going to cameo. So we actually wrote them and shot them, and then Disney's like, well, we just need Lucasfilm's approval. I'm like, no, you don't. You own them. Like, it's not gonna what? So Lucasfilm said no. And I actually knew Howard Rothman at the time. Well, I knew Howard Rothman from working on Jedi, and he was still with Lucasfilm. So I called him. I said, "Why won't you let us show these?" He's like, "We don't want kids to think Star Wars is funny." And I said,
"You've seen the prequels." I know
it's funny.
Yeah,
and like the Ewok movies and droids. Have they seen those?
Trust me.
I mean, Muppet Babies. Babies.
And yes, I know. His concern was, well, Force Awakens is coming out, and we don't want kids to think that Star Wars is silly or should be made or laughed at. And I said, okay, so we'll release them in a year. And he's like, no, we're trying to rein in. And I said, well, what about all the Seth MacFarlane, all the? And he goes, yeah, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, Blue Harvest, Robot Chicken stuff.
Yeah, all that Robot Chicken stuff and the Family Guy Star Wars specials.
Yeah, Blue Harvest.
He's like, yeah, Blue Harvest, right? Sorry, I forgot that was called that.
For whatever reason,
I have a Blue Harvest T-shirt I'm willing to part with for $30,000. That's my new number.
Yeah, we're gonna get you that for that T-shirt.
$30,000, an original
it's
Blue
in the
Harvest.
Mail. Yeah.
So that was weird. So there's two of those things that I have on my hard drive that I showed.
So we have so many petitions to start here. So we want these released. We want the Asner cut. We want the Arnett cut.
We want the Asner verse.
We want the Asner verse. We want the 4-hour Muppet Haunted Mansion.
It's only, I think
in black and white.
Yeah, my director's cut, I think, was like 53 minutes. So they've cut about 8 minutes out. So most of it's
most of it's 8
jokes.
minutes back.
Yeah. Exactly.
just Gonzo talking to the Joker at the end. No one understands what's going on.
Yeah, what?
That'd be great. And you are a voice in this as well, right?
I am. I do what they call the 101 announcement, which is when the ride breaks down. You hear?
Yeah, I thought I recognized your voice.
Yeah, I was doing. I didn't want to do a dead-on impression of what's his name, Paul Frees. So I just did a Paul Frees like, "Your attention, please." Please remain in your doom buggy. We did the exact announcement, and then again they cut things. They cut a part of it out. I think it said, "Your attention, please. Restless spirits have stopped the ride or done something. Please remain in your doom buggy until the ride restarts." And so they trimmed out restless spirits. So it just says, "Your attention, please. Please remain in your doom buggy until the lights go down."
Was there any plan to do like a Muppetized version of the Hitchhiking Ghosts? Or was it?
Yeah, we just didn't have the budget because that's a whole big build. And we even thought, like, could we turn Pops into? You could turn Pops into what's his name? I forget their names. I know there's Phineas is the tall, skinny one.
Scott Whites, let us know the names. Please send us a tweet.
Phineas, Gus. It's Phineas, Gus, and something with an E. Ephraim, I think. Wow. See, I do know the ride. And you don't learn that on the ride. You have to be like a dork and really get into it. But we couldn't build them, and so we got the actual ghosts they use now in the Florida. Well, I think they might be in both rides or whatever, both mansions. But again, budget, we couldn't animate them, so we just we just got these stock animations they do. They kind of scramble through or they rotate through the ride on a randomizer, I guess. So so they just kind of are there and wiggle around. You're like, wait, and then we cut. It's
the joke hits and stuff. But
exactly, we got the joke, and they kind of do a little thing. If you pay too much attention, you're like, why are they doing? And then the ghost jumps up and screams, and you're gone. So
I will not pay attention.
It served its purpose, and but there was a whole debate, like, do we make Muppet versions of them? And that was a huge cost for literally a 3-second gag. So then it was like, well, can we turn Muppets into them? And we kind of used everybody in the whole special. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Well, but no. So there's your answer for everyone out there concerned.
Yeah, I my joke was we should get like huge cameos. We should get like Clint Eastwood to play the tall, skinny guy, and Jack Black to play the short, round guy.
He would have.
Yeah, exactly. And make them up so you can barely recognize them.
Yeah.
And just have this huge thing starring Clint Eastwood and Jack Black and
Daniel Craig. Daniel
Craig, or or what's his name, Ryan Reynolds as Gus. And with all this makeup on, you'd never recognize him. But yeah, no, they laughed and laughed until they didn't, and they didn't.
Well. But it is a fantastic special. If anyone hasn't watched it yet, what's wrong with you? It's on Disney Plus. Go subscribe to Disney Plus and check it out. And there are a load of other great things there on Disney for you for the holiday season. All the Treehouse of Horrors are on there.
They've got all the Star Wars, all the Simpsons. They have.
Could they do a Simpsons Muppets? Is there something?
They did that in a Katy Perry video. They built Muppet style Simpsons characters. You can find that. Oh, and but they weren't the Muppets. They were the people who build Muppets. Built the Simpsons characters, and it was for a Katy Perry.
Yeah, I think I kind of remember, and maybe I think one of their Treehouse of Horrors, everyone maybe was Muppeted.
Maybe that's where it came. I know they did a 3D one, CG one, but I don't know where that was
in the 90s. But I feel like
Homer Cubed was the
we just watched it.
Golden era.
Troy McClure starred in a Muppet movie as well.
As Muppets Go Medieval.
Oh God, that's funny.
No, that is
we talked about when we were pitching Treasure Island. We pitched a Muppet Medieval because I'm huge fan of Python. I said let's do a Muppet King Arthur story, or King Arthur, which is the Holy Grail story.
Yeah.
When I was 10, I wrote a spec script called A Muppet in King Arthur's Court. I'm glad no one has ever seen it because it's not very good.
Oh, come on!
I think there's a lot of Muppet fanfic scripts out there. I've been told by many of them. I have this script. Can I send it to you? I'm like, no, because then if we do something similar, because look, I mean, Muppet. Yeah. Obviously, if you and I thought of Muppets in the King Arthur's Court or a Muppet version of it, then so have a million other people. But we just own the IP.
Oh, thanks. I feel really special now.
Yeah, you're an idiot.
Brian.
But I include myself there, so I'm not saying that you're any worse than I am. So
I don't know. But my Muppet Jurassic Park would have been really great. But
Muppet Jurassic Park.
We'll never know.
Well, you've seen.
You can drop them into anything, though. That's the beautiful thing about the Muppets. They'll work anywhere.
Well, you saw the dinosaur mashup from the TV series Dinosaurs they did with Jurassic, the meme that went out there with like the baby dinosaurs hatching and all the people are looking at it. And Earl is the big Yeah, exactly.
No, that's great. There's got to be a rule out there. It is like the internet rule 117, and anything that exists has been Muppetized.
Yeah,
or has been thought to be Muppetized.
Yeah, there's even adult content, which is really freaky.
Yes,
I've been to DeviantArt. I've seen it.
Yeah,
Stuff.
I've heard about it.
I've only seen the posters.
Muppet Lemon Party is all I'm gonna say.
Oh boy!
Screaming goatsy.
No.
Oh great! Now we're gonna put the explicit rating on here.
Muppet Lemon Party with Statler Waldorf.
Oh no!
You're welcome for that visual.
Oh.
2 chickens, 1 cup.
I don't feel clean.
Fantastic. Very, very PG and family friendly stuff here. Any of those ideas, Disney is free to use.
They don't owe us a penny.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the lemon would be an actual lemon, though, and they would be having a party.
That's true.
With a bunch of other lemons.
That's what I love about the Muppets.
Yeah.
And I would write that joke. It's like Kermit's like, Pepe sent me this thing called Lemon Party. And so people are like, no. And you turn on, and it's a bunch of lemons laughing.
Yeah, just the Swedish chef and a lemon just hanging out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's he so sour about?
The thing is that the executives who don't know what the hell that is would be like, yeah, that's funny. And then all the people are like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Someone will clue them in, and then they'll not let us do it. And you're like, but it is of itself. That's what's hip about it.
If you
like-
take anything from this, listeners, do not tattle on Muppet jokes.
No.
Just don't say, "Oh my God!"
And don't-
Subject of no sense of humor.
and
Just
do
let
not-
it go.
Do not look up Lemon Party.
Yes, but if you do,
Yeah, that was the Rick roll of the late '90s. Oh, look up, just
Yeah.
Google Lemon Party. You're like, oh,
Yep.
what's that? And you're like, oh God, yeah, it was like Two Girls, One Cup.
Yep, I had a yep. We had a few sites that were like that.
Mhm.
That if at any point you left your computer unlocked, you would come back and it was your home page or it was your computer background. Now
Yeah,
I had a friend
yeah.
that did it every time, and
Oh
he
my God.
always thought it was funny. God rest his soul. So
Wow, okay, that's a good.
I mean,
That's
no,
a
he's
good dark
I think he's fine. So
We'll never know.
Yeah.
Kirk, it is the Halloween season, of course, and we
It
are
is.
deeply entrenched in our Hell on Reels
Yes.
season. So we're looking for recommendations of a spooky, scary, horror, any kind of horror movie or Halloween-esque movie. So what is a
yeah.
movie you think people should check out?
I-
Besides Muppet Haunted Mansion.
Besides the obvious, I have two.
Please
one,
do.
And one is so old that people might not know about it because I don't think they run on TV anymore. It's Mad Monster Party, which for me as a kid was the Halloween movie because they only show that and Charlie Brown, Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. And that was soft and sweet, but it didn't have monsters and it wasn't really edgy or weird. And Mad Monster Party has great music. It's a Rankin Bass special, the same people who did like the Rudolph and Santa Claus is Coming to Town, but it's all monsters.
Yeah.
And Paul Frees doing like 5 voices, and Jimmy Stewart riff, and just so many, character voices. It's a lot of fun. They've released it on Blu-ray. They've cleaned it all up. There's a couple decent songs and a couple really dopey songs. I think the worst one's like One Foot in Front of the Other or something. And it's Boris Karloff is a puppet version of Boris Karloff, an animated Boris Karloff. There's so much to recommend it.
Yeah.
And it's such classic monstery stuff. And the characters were designed, I think, by Jack Davis of Mad Magazine fame. So that's my favorite Halloween. That to me is Halloween because that's all I had as a kid growing up. And then the other one, just again because I'm picking silly and stupid, is Ernest Scared Stupid. That's got
Brilliant.
a great monster in it. It's funny. It's dumb. It's safe for the whole family.
It's Shakespeare.
It's Shakespeare.
It is Shakespeare.
If you're a fan, if you've got a family likes Halloween, I would show those 3: Muppet Haunted Mansion, Mad Monster Party, and Ernest Scared Stupid, and you will have the best Halloween movie viewing ever.
Authentic Bulgarian Miak. I bet you thought I couldn't get it this time of the year.
I just love that they would write. I mean, we could do a whole thing about Ernest movies, but that they were this own little thing, kind of like the Muppets. Like they just went off and made these movies, and half of them were in South Africa. The later ones were done in South Africa, and just they could kind of do whatever they want because they didn't have some giant corporation saying, "No, you can't make that joke."
Yeah,
you can't make jokes about.
And then he had a TV show too. Hey Vern, it's Ernest.
Yeah, those were great. I think the same crew too, the same writers and performers. But
that's kind of early in his career. I think he'd only gotten Dr. Otto and the Gloom Beam done by then.
Oh wow,
we're big Ernest nerds around here too.
Yeah.
Somehow
Great.
we love our Ernest.
And by we mean you.
Hey, Dylan gets on the cannon and rides sometimes too.
Oh yeah, I do. And Ernest Goes to Camp was the first big one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, we already watched Scared Stupid once this season, and
See, I have not. Time. I think that's why I haven't watched either of those. I've watched Mad Monster Party probably 50 times in my life, mainly as a kid growing up every year. But I have not seen Ernest Scared Stupid, I think, since it came out. So
definitely, you're due another one. And you're right. What's so great about Ernest is, although Ernest is stupid, Trantor the troll is taken very straight-faced, and it is a horrifying creature.
It's an amazing creature design. Usually they kind of throw that away. Well, friends of mine worked on it, and so I knew the creature, and when they were showing me, I saw pictures of it before it came out, and I'm like, what is that for? They go, Ernest Scared Stupid. I'm like, what?
Terrifying.
It's the coolest creature design in the dopiest movie, but that's
it's Troll 3. Why are you lying to me?
Oh yeah, no. If only any of the troll movies were as good as Ernest Scared Stupid. That's what's so funny about it. Ernest Scared Stupid, great recommendation. Always good. We always welcome around here.
What would you throw in that mix?
Well, let's see what Dylan, what have you got for us?
Yeah,
What's your
Dylan.
recommendation?
Oh, okay. Well, we've been talking about creature features, and I gotta recommend one of my favorites, Critters from 1986.
Sure.
It's about these little furry aliens that come down and start wreaking havoc. It's like if Tribbles had teeth, you know?
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I think we recommended Critters 2 last year, so if you've been waiting this whole year, now you go right ahead and watch Critters 1.
Yeah, exactly. What I love about the Critters 2 is there's someone who's just like has to bowl those like furry balls like across the desert, so it looks like the critters are rolling.
Right.
It's just lobbing those across a field.
Have you seen that tire movie that's the same?
Rubber.
Yeah,
Rubber.
Great movie.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Just the same thing. You think some poor guy is right off camera going, "Okay, roll it."
Yeah. I like Rubber.
I did too. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's definitely an exercise in the absurd. Ryan, I know you had a good one. So what's your recommendation?
I don't know if it's
your
a good
heckamendation.
One, but, my heckamendation has nothing to do with Halloween or anything. It's a Muppet movie, but it's not the best Muppet movie or even my favorite Muppet movie, but it is on brand with this week's discussion, and that is 1999's Muppets from Space. I'm a sucker for a good Gonzo story, and while this film is very wobbly and very uneven, it delivers a tale of families, both biological and chosen, and never fails to make me cry like a little putz. It's not currently streaming for free anywhere, but now that Disney Plus is licensing Sony content, hopefully it will show up there soon.
Really? When did you cry? I cried, but I worked on it.
At the end, when the family finally comes down and he decides to stay with his family,
with his friends. Yeah.
Gets me every time.
Well, it's funny. That was Jerry's. I read that script. I was friends with Jerry Joe. I read it, his first draft, which was a way smaller movie, and the ending was much more. Jerry had doubled down on UFO enthusiasts and the groups that would get together. And wait, and they in the original script, this group of UFO fanatics had through some small event had seen Gonzo or heard Gonzo do something and had realized that he is an alien, and he was like, I don't know what I am, and they basically convinced him through all these weird silly things. I remember like the chairs in his room were like a quarter inch shorter in one leg. And so they were like, that's a sign. And so it was these very nutty UFO enthusiasts who had basically convinced Gonzo that he was an alien and that they were like his followers now. He was kind of getting acolytes and they were sort of taking him away from the Muppet family. And it was kind of going to his head, not that he thought he was great, but that, I finally know who I am because I've always been curious. And at the end, the same ending where, they wanted to, I forget where they were going to take him or what they were going to do. And he realized, that doesn't matter where I came from. What matters is my family. So the core of it, the heart of it was the same, but a much, much smaller movie so you never knew. There were hints. So you kind of ended up in a very art film kind of way. You never were actually sure, and neither.
Leave it ambiguous.
It was more ambiguous. But leave it to Hollywood to go. No, we need a giant ship and a whole musical number.
And no one's complaining about the musical number.
No, it was fun. It was fun. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but as you said, it's so uneven. It was very uneven. It was really uneven to work on too.
Do you have a Muppet movie that you consider your favorite one that you didn't make?
No.
All right. No, I figured.
I'm not involved in.
I'm kidding. For me, because Treasure Island I love, but I'm obviously biased. Outside of the one I worked on, I think Caper.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's such a well-made movie, and it's a great parody, and they spent a ton of money on it. The first one's great, but if you look at it as a script, it's just a series of events. Yeah. There's a very thin through line, but it didn't matter. And because this was a discussion I had a lot, especially when I first started writing with the Muppets, and people were like, we should make a movie like the Muppet movie. I said, no, you shouldn't, because that's not a good story. The Muppet movie was at the end of a 5-year successful run of a TV series. So they could have showed up and just danced around a room and thrown tomatoes and everyone would have loved it because it came from the TV series. I said, if you look at it, if you've never seen the Muppet Show, you'd be like, what the hell is this? 2 guys, a bear and a frog, drive across country, meet a bunch of weirdos and end up
I know this one. I've heard it before.
You know what I mean? And there's little vignettes, and they're all fun. It's a romp, what they would call. And I've tried pitching Muppet romp stories, and people are like, well, what's the story? I'm like, well, everyone loves the Muppet movie. But again,
goddamn romp.
It's a goddamn romp. It's what is it? It's a Wallace Berry wrestling picture. It writes itself. There's a deep cut. So it's not. It's a great Muppet movie because it came at the end of 5 years of a great Muppet TV show. I think if you made it, and it's not necessarily a fair. Now we're turning into Reels of Justice, aren't we?
we tricked you into it. No. We only have good things to say.
Yeah, and I like it, but I think Caper was when all the stars aligned. They had real stars. Well, not that they didn't have the worst one, but they had a real story, and they had a ton of money to do the huge piggy, super gratuitous.
Oh God, riding the motorcycle.
Yes,
so good.
And the water ballet, which is just, when you heard how hard that was to shoot, and like the piggy puppet got soaking wet and fell apart, and they made the giant. So much work and money was spent on that it's kind of the Cleopatra of Muppet films.
The Cleopatra of Muppet.
The water world.
There's the quote. Oh man.
Well, in a good way.
It's floating in the water.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Fun fact: Joe Mankiewicz wanted to put Muppets in Cleopatra, but couldn't do it.
Yes, because they just done bits on Sullivan. They weren't really a brand yet. You're like, wait, I can hear you Googling that. Wait, seriously?
I know. I was like, what? Right?
Jim was going to build the Egyptian gods, and they were going to talk. Hey, Osiris, get a load of this one.
I don't know if I want it to be true. Sullivan was a Muppet. Big Ben, what have you got for us? What's your recommendation?
I'm going to return to form and go with a J-horror recommendation, and that is the Vampire Doll. It oozes that All Hallows Eve haunted house atmosphere by using creepy visuals and a harpsichord, which, as we all know, is the official instrument of Halloween. The story.
Oh, the theremin says "fuck you."
Oh, the theremin.
I would like to make a case for the organ.
The harpsichord. The harpsichord's carrying that.
I have to agree.
Sci-fi.
It's exactly. It's clearly xylophones that sound like skeletons. That's the
skeletons
official...
that sound like xylophones.
Oh, screw you!
There's a slight difference.
Harpsichord or nothing. Harpsichord or nothing.
Screw your rabbit god. My duck god is the only true one.
Where's your?
Sorry, Big Ben. You had a recommendation you were in the middle of.
That was it. The Vampire Doll. It's Halloweeny. It's got all of that atmosphere and. It's got Japanese flair, so, it'll keep you engaged. So, yeah, check that one out.
It's Toho, isn't it?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
I think it is Toho.
Let's just say it is. Who's going to call us out on it?
Have you guys ever seen the movie, not the American version House, but the Japanese movie
Yes.
House?
I recommended it last
season.
Oh, yeah. That is a banana pants movie. I'd heard about it for years because I worked on the American, not version of it, but an American movie called House. I designed the creatures for it. And then other people I'd say I worked on House, and they're like, wait, which one? And I'm like, well, then you find out, like, wow, how would I have worked on a Japanese movie in the same?
I don't know. You've lived a full life. Come on.
I know. It's like you're just like, I think the radiation really, really affected that country more than we will admit.
The 70s hit Japan pretty hard.
Just pretty banana pants.
And the crazy thing is, they were trying to rip off Jaws.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I heard.
Nothing to do with it.
It's nothing to do. If the movie doesn't have to do with the movie, like you're watching, going, "What is this?"
You just imagine the producers like, "Yeah, money well spent."
Yeah, we nailed it. High fiving. We nailed it. Saki's on me. Yeah.
Especially when they do some horror movies. Japan really likes to lean into the craziness.
What's the new one?
That's why we love them.
What's the new one? Gore something? Gore Master? Gore. It's a new one that everyone's really. It's super bloody and violent, but they're.
Psycho Gorman? Well, that's not
Psycho Gorman.
Psycho Gorman. Yeah.
Oh, that's not Japanese?
Canadian.
Not Japanese. No.
Oh,
it's Canadian. Oh my gosh.
Oh, but the title Psycho Gorman.
It's practically the same thing.
I totally thought it was Japanese. Yeah,
good movie though.
Yeah, everyone's raving about it. With that title, I thought it was,
Yeah, we watched Psycho Gorman. We enjoyed it. Well, I enjoyed it.
It was okay.
I enjoyed it.
All right.
I'll prosecute it. There we go.
I bet you would.
I would.
And best Halloween movie, just single answer, best movie of all for Halloween. Not a recommendation. What's your favorite number one movie to watch on Halloween? That's my question for everybody.
Oh, that's so easy. The animated adaptation of The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury.
Wow, I've never even seen it. Okay, next.
Either The Ring, the American one, or The Shining.
Oh, nice. Okay. Mine is Bride of Frankenstein.
Ooh, you stole mine. Oh, damn it. So I'm going to go completely middle of the road, John Carpenter's Halloween.
Oh, okay.
That's a good one. Last year I watched The Exorcist 6 times. So it's very possibly The Exorcist. It's just so fun.
The extended version with all the stuff that was cut out, like
the spider walk,
and the pee.
Absolutely, the spider walk.
That made it really creepy for me.
Yeah, for me, I only really know The Exorcist post that being added in, and I think every copy I've ever had has had it. So to me, that's just the movie. But as far as kind of a fun one, man, I love Hocus Pocus. I've always loved Hocus Pocus.
I have yet to see that movie.
I watched it. We'll set up a watch party. We'll set up a watch party. But when I was carving, when
literally watched it twice this weekend with my kids.
Yes,
it's fun.
Exactly. I put it on one of those times. But yeah, that's just fun Halloween.
It is.
It's scary a little bit. Would love to see a Muppet version. It is Disney.
Well, they're making a sequel right now.
Yes.
They're shooting it in fact, friends of mine were in, Salem.
I know Bette Midler's going through a lot of de-aging to become a crusty old witch.
Oh, wow.
No, I love Bette Midler. I'm sorry.
Wow. I need a
This is our last episode, folks. Bette Midler's folks are coming for us.
She would, too.
If you're do the Bette Midler fans identify themselves as Midler men? Midler men. Okay, I'm out.
But I'll send us home on my recommendation, though. I'm gonna recommend one of the movies I just watched as part of my 31 Days of Halloween. 1961's The Innocents, directed by Jack Clayton. It's based on the Henry James novella The Turn of the Screw, which, if you're looking for spooky reading material, is a great choice. The adaptation was done by William Archibald and Truman Capote, which is really interesting. Capote.
That is an unnervingly creepy movie.
Terrifying movie. It's for people who haven't seen it. It's a governess basically suspects the children that are under her care of being possessed by ghosts that haunt the estate, and it's kind of pioneers the whole "is it all in her head" idea, which we talked about earlier. The film keeps it ambiguous, as the novella does. And the fun is kind of figuring out whether this is happening or is it all in her head.
Well, are you being gaslit or is the character being gaslit? Is the audience being gaslit? Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, that is a very unnerving movie.
Yeah. Who I loved Martin Stevens in it. He's the 12-year-old boy, who is also in Village of the Damned.
Yes. That's a really good one.
And he's so really good at being a horrifying kid. And so, and it's atmospheric. It's beautifully composed, or should I say decomposed? No, I shouldn't. I shouldn't say it.
No. Bad you.
But anyway, it would be great in a double feature with Robert Wise's The Haunting. So if you want some...
Yes, both of those I grew up on, where creepy is and unnerving without showing much at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that's my recommendation.
Nice.
And with that, we're all out of show.
Uppity.
That's all, folks. But we want to thank Kirk for stopping by and talking with us. We talked a lot about the Muppets. Everyone should check out Muppet Haunted Mansion on Disney Plus right now.
Disney Plus, yes.
Disney Plus. Go and subscribe
for me again.
Now.
There we go.
I take all your best jokes, Ryan. I have to. I don't have any of my own.
Thanks,
let them grow and flourish.
Thanks, fellers. I had a good time.
All right, thanks, Kirk. But we hope everyone else will join us again as the Reels of Justice keep turning.
Dun, dun, dun.
Muppets!
Cabin fever!
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.